The ceremony is now beginning. Please welcome Dean Agustin Rayo to the lectern.
Welcome, and welcome especially to our graduates. Many years ago, I came to MIT as a graduate student, just like you. MIT took a chance on me. I was a nerdy kid from Mexico City with embarrassing gaps in his knowledge of the philosophy of mathematics, but with fire in his belly. And MIT changed my life. For the first time, I felt like I belonged. And for the first time, I felt like the only real limit to my academic progress was myself. You have traveled a long way to get here, both because you come from all over the world, but also because of the obstacles that you have had to overcome to get to this point. And yet, you stand here today, MIT's newest scholars and the best of us. Advances in science and engineering can change our lives in countless ways, but technology blind is not going to make the world a better place. If you want to make the world a better place, you need to understand how it works. And that means understanding the economic, political, social, ethical, human dimensions. The work that you do is critical to our future. You've all left your mark at MIT because of your work, because of your research, but also because of the relationships that you've built. And I hope that those are relationships that will stay with you for the rest of your lives. And I also hope that for the rest of your lives, you will think of MIT as your family. Our student speaker today is Sonia Maria Pavel. She is a doctoral student in philosophy who works in social and political philosophy. Her dissertation, A Systematic Political Philosophy of Education, investigates K-12 education's impacts on various groups, the public policies that organize it, and their ethical implications. And during her time at MIT, Sonia has also acted as co-director of our experiential ethics class, which is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about earlier. So it helps our undergraduates see the social and ethical implications of their work. She was born and raised in Bucharest, and she came to the US through the Wien International Scholarship Program at Brandeis University, where she earned bachelor's degrees in philosophy and anthropology. And this fall, she will take on a new role as an assistant professor at Clemson University. Sonia, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much to Dean Agustin Raio for the introduction and the invitation to speak today. It is a great honor that is made all the more special given that my journey at MIT began with Agustin teaching my first semester philosophy pro seminar. On our first day together, he asked each of my cohort members why we chose to pursue a PhD in philosophy, why we chose to spend half a decade or more of our youth continuing our studies, especially in a field that guarantees neither professional nor financial success. None of us had good answers at the time. I thought I was off the hook until Agustin reached out to me a couple of months ago. But since I am a philosopher, instead of answering this deeply personal question, I will ask and answer a much more generic one. Why should anyone study the humanities, arts, and social sciences? I start with a positive observation. Something great lives in many American universities, the ideal of a liberal arts or humanistic education, an ideal built on the notion of Bildung, or ethical formation that exceeds narrow professionalization. This is an ideal that many higher education systems around the world do not aspire to, and something that attracts international students from around the world, including myself, to the United States. The humanities, in particular, have been understood as central to this ethical formation of individuals, who can go on to be engineers, doctors, lawyers, but can appreciate a Beethoven sonata or recount the events of the Iliad or the Odyssey. I am glad this ideal is still in place. But it has unfortunately become quite diluted from its more robust precursors in the Bildung tradition. The humanities are usually not defended as vital parts of our lives themselves, but rather as useful for developing various skills. In the most common refrain, critical thinking and effective communication. It is also an ideal of education accessible only to a small elite. About 40% of 18 to 24-year-olds in the US enroll in college, and of those, only a small portion attend colleges and universities committed to liberal arts education, let alone major in the humanities, arts, and social sciences. But even in its diluted critical reasoning form, this ideal is often questioned and challenged, which is why I think it is our responsibility as graduates of humanistic disciplines to keep re-articulating and defending it. And for those of you wondering, yes, I include economists in the category of humanistic disciplines. The humanities, arts, and social sciences are not merely useful for the additional skills they develop, helping students be better future engineers, doctors, lawyers, or whatever other vocations they pursue. They just are our vocation as human beings. They are our ways of understanding ourselves collectively, of making meaning, and of defining our place in the world relative to other human beings and to non-human nature. They shape the terms on which we choose to relate to one another and our expectations for what we owe to each other. They are our collective self-consciousness, written, spoken, and painted. In other words, the arts, humanities, and social sciences are not an optional add-on to life, not an ornament or a luxury. They are not something we can choose to sprinkle on top of our daily experiences to make them more beautiful or more meaningful. Whatever we have by way of concepts, aesthetic sensibilities, values, is a direct measure of how rich our lives are. Engaging with the disciplines that seek to approach this existential subject matter with rigor, to make progress grappling with the unavoidable questions of the human condition, equips us to be better at our central task, being human. I think many of my fellow graduates will attest to the fact that the centrality of the humanistic disciplines often goes unrecognized, not just by most students, but even by academics outside of our disciplines. Why should a future engineer waste their time with an ethics of science and technology course? Is a question I have heard many times. Ethics entails asking what one should do, what is right and wrong, what our obligations to each other are, what values and goods are worth striving to realize in our practices. Insofar as they are human, engineers will have to act on answers to these questions every single day of their lives, both in their professional worlds as well as in their personal relationships and public political engagement as citizens. It matters whether we are the ones asking and answering these questions explicitly, or just conforming to social expectations, conventions, traditions, unthinkingly. In other words, it matters whether we are exercising our distinctly human capacities or not. So the instrumental answers given on behalf of the humanistic disciplines, that they promote critical thinking skills, the ability to express oneself in speech and in writing, analytical and synthetic skills, etc. These are all true, but they miss the bigger picture. Being human is being self-conscious, self-reflective, and self-interpreting. Yes, but will the humanities help me score higher on the GRE or LSAT or MCAT? Will they help me get a better job and make more money? Is like asking, will being human help me score higher on the GRE, LSAT, or MCAT? It very well might, but even if it doesn't, what choice do we really have? Now I get to a point I think is less recognized. The instrumental vision for the liberal arts in universities goes hand in hand with the narrowly circumscribed vision of our K-12 education systems. These are often not discussed in the same breath. There are college professors making impassioned defenses of the liberal arts in the contemporary university, without acknowledging that most primary, middle, and high schools are as far as can be from this ideal, and that in many cases, it is too late to make the plea for the humanities by the time a student reaches college. They have already been socialized to understand the humanistic disciplines instrumentally and to only take them seriously insofar as they amount to fulfilling expectations, earning credits, getting some good grades, and ultimately getting high-paying jobs in STEM. Keeping in mind that US schools are doing much better than others around the world, it is worth pointing out that education in the arts, humanities, and social sciences is at best not prioritized and at worst completely neglected. For example, about half of US states do not consistently report any data on students' participation in arts education. Among those who do, students considered economically disadvantaged, which disproportionately includes Black and Hispanic students, are significantly less likely to have taken a single arts course. A recent study estimated that more than 2 million US students did not have access to any arts education. The same goes for other humanistic disciplines. The focus on reading and writing achievement, while important, sometimes obscures the impoverished content of school humanities curricula. In the past 2 decades, at every grade level, a substantial majority of K-12 students failed to demonstrate proficiency in US history. I'm saying this to you, fellow graduates of the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences, because you are well positioned to bring your knowledge, passion, and commitment to bear on these issues. Some of us will go on to pursue careers in higher education or otherwise be engaged in research. I want us to act on the fact that the fate of the humanities is inextricably linked to the health of our primary and secondary education systems. In an immediate sense, the impact of our research and contributions, as well as the support and recognition they receive, depends on the support and recognition that primary and secondary school teachers receive. They also depend on the ability of every pupil to not only make contact with our disciplines, but to participate in and appreciate the humanities, arts, and social sciences. From a broader long-term perspective, an impoverished humanistic education is an impoverished humanity. To me, this recognition of the humanities is very clearly resonant with the MIT motto, mens et manus, mind and hand, which so many of our faculty and students embody in an exemplary fashion. It is those members of our community who recognize that technological development without reflection on well-being and flourishing can be catastrophic, that freedom of thought and of expression is as indispensable as an ethic of democratic solidarity and mutual responsibility, and that there's no such thing as value-free inquiry, or inquiry that does not shape who we are and what we owe to each other. Thank you, and congratulations to the class of 2025.
Thank you, Sonia, for those incredibly important remarks. We now turn to the conferral of degrees. The faculty of the School of Humanities, Arts, and Social Sciences are declared convened, together with this assembly, for the conferring of master's degrees, doctoral degrees, and academic hoods. Sonia will be the first graduate to be recognized. After that, we'll turn to the conferral of master's degrees. And finally, we'll proceed to the conferral of doctoral degrees and the investiture of academic hoods. These hoods identify their bearers as members of the Academy. Let us now welcome MIT's newest scholars to the stage. With their graduation today, the faculty of this institution recognize their achievements and welcome them as peers.
Awarding the hood for the Doctor of Philosophy in Philosophy on behalf of the Department of Linguistics and Philosophy, Professor Sally Hasslinger, Sonia Maria Pavel, Doctor of Philosophy. Course 14, Economics, Master of Applied Science in Data, Economics, and Design of Policy.
Miles Ramsden. Wade Laring. Beth Lowe. Chian Vern Wong. Ariana Mapua. Ankita Singh. Luca Moreno Luzada. Pritham Raja. Raimundo Esaguirre Ducci. Ioana Branga Peku. Xiaochen Huang. Ricardo Habalian. Kei Chuen Ma. Soledad Chango. Reinhard Saupia.
Course 17, Political Science, Master of Science in Political Science.
Helen Webley Brown.
Please give a round of applause for all of our master's graduates. Doctoral hoods will now be invested. Investing hoods for the Doctor of Philosophy on behalf of the Department of Economics, Professor Jonathan Gruber, Department Head, and Professor David Atkins, Associate Head.
Kelsey Larson. Tishara Garg. Jie Zhou. Victor Quintas Martinez. Advik Shrikumar. Raphael Weil. Sarah Gertler. Eitan Sapiro Gaylor. Davy Hue. Edward Wiles. Karl Milutin Aspeland. Daniel O'Connor. Sylvia Clausen. Kelsey Moran. Rebecca Dix. Henry Zhang. Todd Lensman. Roy Orzak. Jaume Vives. Ahmet Gulek. Adam Solomon. Shinosuke Kikuchi.
Investing Hoods for the Doctor of Philosophy on behalf of the program in History, Anthropology, and Science and Technology and Society, Professor Kate Brown, Department Head.
Nadia Christidi. Timothy Lowe. Ji Wu. Alexander Rewigan. Alex Reese Sorokin.
Investing Hoods for the Doctor of Philosophy in Linguistics on behalf of the Department of Linguistics and Philosophy, Professor Norvin Richard.
Unsun Ju. Enrico Flor.
Investing Hoods for the Doctor of Philosophy in Philosophy on behalf of the Department of Linguistics and Philosophy, Professor Sally Haslinger.
Nicole Garcia. Eliza Wells.
Investing Hoods for the Doctor of Philosophy on behalf of the Department of Political Science, Professor David Singer, Department Head.
Jung Jae Kwon. Tomoya Sasaki. Kunal Singh.
Please give a round of applause to our doctoral degree recipients.
With this, we conclude the degree conferral ceremony and the investiture of doctoral hoods. I now invite the faculty to join me in congratulating our master's degree candidates and welcoming our doctoral graduates to the Academy. Congratulations!
The faculty will now exit the stage, followed by our newly graduated students. We ask that all guests remain seated until the faculty and graduates have exited the room. Thank you for joining us in celebrating this very special day.
Thank you.